bring Amy and Nathan up from Accessible Systems. So Amy's going to come back up, and Nathan Colburn, I didn't put him in the flyer here, I'm sorry. I didn't realize he was speaking, so sorry about that, Nathan. And they're going to talk about some home modifications that are also going to help with safety. Before we move on to that, any questions that anybody has, anything that they want to share? I really want it interactive. Absolutely.
This is just trivial, but are you actually are we following you in the book?
We are.
You're going verbatim in the book, okay.
Pretty much, yeah. We're not going to necessarily talk about every word. There are going to be more bullets, but yes, we're following the presentation. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, do you let local fire departments or rescue units know that you have a person in the house?
Love that. Love that. You know, schools, and I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that sense, especially what happened at Columbine. Is everyone aware of the Columbine situation that occurred? It is now part of, my husband works for Jefferson County in the district office, and the fire departments that would respond in the medical units to each of the schools in Jefferson County actually have to go out, and they have to have a blueprint of the home, and they have to go through the school so that it's on an emergency. It's not the first time they've ever done that. Fire departments will actually do that for anybody who has some sort of disability in their area. So absolutely, great question. It's very important that you do that. Absolutely. And even posting a little note on the door somewhere is great, just to make sure that they know a little X, you know, a little diagram here, make sure that you look here. Also, if you've got some life support, what if the power went out? Does the power company know that you've got a life support situation? And if so, you will be the first home that they make sure gets power. They actually have to have a protocol like that from the government. So you really do want to talk to your providers in your community and make sure they're aware of that. Great question, thank you. Amy, Nathan, come on up, and I'll give you this, and if you need more lights or anything, let me know. So.
Well, good morning. I wanted to assure everyone here that while we don't know that tables are washed, all the presenters today have washed their hands. What day? That's a good question. We'll work on that for you. Amy and I wanted to introduce you to kind of a short slideshow of some of the options in your home, but I wanted to start out with a question and kind of get a chance to see who we have here and what kind of homes we live in. Let me ask you, does any of us live in an apartment, first of all? Just raise your hand. Thank you. One, townhome. Two, any townhomes? A lot of stairs in our townhomes. Yes, ma'am. How about a ranch-style home? How many of us live in a ranch-style home? Very good. Any of us in a mobile home? Just got good. How about a two-story? Any two stories? Okay. And bi-levels. Any bi-levels or tri-levels or quad levels? God, love those levels. Good deal. Well, thank you. It gives me an idea. It looks like we're a pretty mixed group, and that's how Colorado is. So as we go through today, we'll talk about some of the fun we have in our homes. But have you ever looked around your home and said, what have I got myself into? Sometimes it's maintenance, but a lot of times we look at our home about this time and we say, how can we make our house or our home work for us? And the fun part is, most homes are built for the convenience of the home builder. So now we're talking about a home that's built for you. The good news is there are a lot of small little things that we can do to make our home accessible. So that's what we'll roll through today. Sarah, usually I'm pretty good with buttons, but tell me which one goes forward.
It's the one to the right.
Alrighty. You must have the magic touch. No problem.
I went back to get my caffeine fix here. So.
Now I found it. I think so.
There you go.
Perfect. We're good at homes, but not with computers, sorry. So a couple questions as we start, as we look at our house. Amy, why don't you cover a couple of the common issues that we have in the home, and we'll ask these questions as we go through your homes. Hopefully we'll have time for some questions. I think we will. Raise your hand if you have any personal questions as we go through. And then of course we'll make ourselves available during the day to answer your specific questions. So common barriers in the home.
Well, there's about 8 common barriers in the home. One of them is stairs. We kind of have an idea of who has that barrier. Another is carpets, lighting, or is another one. What are some of the other common barriers that you would...
Let's ask our audience.
Yeah, what are some of the other common barriers that you guys are aware of? Bathrooms. Door openings, yeah. Hallways. Which one? Thresholds, yeah. And what?
Doorknobs.
Yep. Doorknobs. Any others want to throw out there? Light switches.
Countertop heights.
Countertop heights, yeah. I think we covered a good more than 8. So that gives you a good feel for some of the things that we are looking at when we go into the home and we evaluate how can we overcome some of these barriers. Because it really is, it's a puzzle and we want to figure it out and make it work for you.
So, nice work, you've got them all covered. Now we know what the challenges are, and the little things tend to be the biggest challenges, right? Those thresholds that push your walker backwards into you, or make your power chair veer into the doorway, right? It's those little things sometimes that make the toughest challenges. So, we're just going to ask your question today, what makes a good accessibility design versus a poor one? And we're learning. Sarah started out the presentation with, I think, a good theme, planning ahead. Planning ahead usually allows us to make a good design so we don't have to go back and do it again. Another thing we look at too is temporary versus permanent, right? Certain stages of this process, we're going to have needs that aren't going to last, right? A lot of times our first need is, sitting down, standing up, doing some of this balance type thing. But that changes. So we want to look at how can we deal with the progression that ALS gives us and make the home grow with us. So kind of thinking a couple steps ahead is usually the difference. As we look at the possible solutions, certainly we want to look at the value of the home, everyone else in the family, and plan for those things. So let's start about getting in the front door. That's usually our first challenge, right? How many of you have steps in the garage or steps at the front door? Anybody not have steps? Let me ask that. We've got one back here. What do you have? So it's barrier-free right into the door. I noticed you have a smile on your face. It is nice to not have a barrier at the front door, but most of our homes are built with at least 2 steps in the garage and 2 or 3 steps at the front door. And that's how we build things. In a mobile home, we have 4 or 5, right? Bi-levels, even more. So, challenge is getting in the front door. As we look at what we call zero-step entries or ramps, the challenge is how steep is too steep, what's going to help us with a cane or a walker, as well as a wheelchair or a scooter or power wheelchair. Because the needs change. Power equipment is much stronger than if I'm using a walker. I can go up a different slope. So we want to look at those challenges. The typical ADA guideline would be 1 inch of vertical rise, and a step is usually 7 to 8 inches, for every 1 inch of ramp, or 1 foot of ramp. So 1 inch of rise for every foot of ramp. So if we have 3 steps and we're looking at 21 inches, we're typically thinking about 21 feet of ramp. So as we look at barrier-free entries, it's just a way of looking at things. But what's funny is, the gentleman in the back will tell us that even though this sounds like a lot of work or a lot of ramp, it's so much easier for everyone in the home. Imagine bringing your groceries home and not having to make those steps, open the door while you're on the steps. How many of you have steps right up to the front door, just a little platform at the door? We see those in the garage a lot, right? They just go right into the door. So that's the other thing we look for, is a level platform at the top. Because if we're using a wheelchair or a walker, nothing's worse than having gravity pull us away from that door when we're trying to open, right? What about storm doors? Have you guys ever done the dance? I have, where we open the storm door one way and we back up, and then we reach forward and open the front door the other way, and then we try to get in before the door hits us. It's kind of a game, isn't it? And we lose. We lose most of the time. So I don't know why it's designed that way, but we also look at the swings of the door. As we look at these entryways, the swing of the door is an obstacle too, isn't it? Because we've got to get out of the way of the door just to get through. This is a house in Highlands Ranch where they took the typical 3 steps and made it as a no-step entry. And of course, looks pretty good, I think, right? The good news is this is a benefit for future residents of the home. So what's funny is accessible doesn't mean just for you. It actually means a better way to design homes. And custom homes, they usually call custom, typically mean better design. So that's really what we're looking at, is taking standard homes and getting them into really, really accessible for you. Of course, as we look at 2 other questions, the size of the user and the size of the chair. How many of you guys have been surprised with how a scooter turns or how much space a power chair takes? Anybody? Have we bumped into a few walls and a few doorways? It's pretty common. And so when we make a turn, the challenge is how much space do we need? A lot of us have hallways, right? And we go into a hallway and we're going to turn into a door. And that door has to be extra wide to let us get through because we have to make a turn, right? So just as we look at the size of everything, it does depend on you and the device you're going to use. My bigger customers, my taller customers, you can imagine if I'm sitting down in a chair and my feet are inclined even just a little, how much longer of a distance am I going to take? When I turn, how much bigger of a circle am I going to take? So this is, thanks for the picture back there. I was posing.
Oh, I missed it. Right after you.
I'll give you another chance here. I'm not sure what we'll put on the caption there, but the fun of this really, guys, is that an accessible home is an easier to use home for everyone. And what's interesting is you're really addressing the challenges that your home started with, not the challenges that you're currently going through. But this can be frustrating. So ramps aren't always the best solution. Platform lifts can be better because they only take 4 feet of space and they can go vertical inside a garage or inside your home or in your backyard, these types of things. So we'll show you a picture of that here in a moment. Here's a couple just different designs, different handrails, different options, of course, different looks. Typically, we recommend handrails on any ramp over about 12 to 14 inches. Obviously, a misstep is not a good thing, and handrails help us all. I've got an 8-year-old daughter. I don't have to tell her to use the handrail. I have one on both sides of the stairs, and I'm amazed. She uses them. I mean, how many of us go down the stairs without a handrail, you know, or go inside without a handrail? A lot of steps don't happen. I mentioned modular ramps just because technology is advancing. And what we're seeing is a lot of things that a contractor used to have to do, and there is equipment now that can do that. So the question is it permanent or is it shorter term? And that's a question for you. We should remodel what is permanent unless there's a better option. But we don't want to remodel in a permanent way if we're not going to use it that long, right? So as we look at modular ramps, this is an opportunity. We actually can rent these. They can be set up in a matter of an hour or 2. They don't require complex permits or building designs because they're a temporary structure. And they're made of aluminum, so there's no maintenance. Some people think that it's a great skateboard park, but what we find is they're actually very good in the snow, very good in the rain because they have a ridged surface, whereas wood's going to have a smooth surface. So just some options here. These are great, especially when you find you need an option quickly. Okay, so typically these will take 3 to 6 days to put in, where construction is typically going to be 2 to 3 weeks. So as you look at those needs, that's a good option. Stairs in the home. We talked about that a little bit. Let me ask you, who has more than 3 or 4 steps between levels in the house? Most of us, about half of us. So a lot of times we're looking at how do we get up to those bedrooms and bathrooms, right? We typically put our living areas and kitchens on the lower levels, and then our bedrooms and bathrooms are upstairs. So a stair lift is a good option. There's a demonstration model over here. They're designed to attach to the steps, not touch the wall. They run on battery, so they work in a power outage, which is important to think about what's our backup plan. And they also fold against the wall so that they don't take up the staircase. The only challenge is they don't take our mobility device, our scooter, our wheelchair, or our power chair up with us. So again, we want to look at this and kind of think 2 steps ahead and say, this works for a lot of people in wheelchairs, but we have to be able to move from chair to chair. Sometimes that's a slide, and sometimes that's a stand, sometimes that's a lift, somebody helping us. So that's an important thing. Here are the platform lifts. These can be up to 14 feet, so they can be a low-cost elevator solution as we look at levels in the home. They only take up about 4 to 4.5 square feet by square, I should say. So again, versus a ramp, we're thinking 40 or 50 feet of ramp for the picture on the left versus 4 or 5 feet of lift. So these are good options. They can have batteries there that will operate even in a power outage. So very reliable, very, very easy to use. And we're seeing the right equipment you can find used. So as we look at what we call renewable or recyclable equipment, you certainly can call and ask a trusted provider. Before you buy used equipment, you want to make sure that it can be repaired, that it will work in your situation. Some of the equipment is what I call disposable. So you can't get parts. It only works in one situation. And I've got 4 or 5 of these in my warehouse that are in that situation. They've been there for years. It's just rare to find a situation where they work. So be careful with used equipment, but that's an option to keep our budgets down. That's a good choice. Any questions on lifts and ramps as we look through? Covered pretty well. Let's get into some other and finish up with some bathrooms. Elevators, the prices come down quite a bit as we look at our homes. A lot of times elevators we think are extremely expensive, but they actually aren't. They do add value to the home, and of course they do bring the chair or the mobility device with us, so they're the easiest option to use for the whole family, but especially for you in your mobility device. This was a Highlands Ranch home where we were able to add this right at the kitchen and still make it a part of the home. So she accesses all 3 levels of her home, and her daughter lives with her. And she can have, she can be the center of the house at any level when she exits. Here's some of the details of the elevator. Design is certainly important, and that's part of what your trusted provider should offer you. It's one thing to have the product, but you should ask the tough questions. What's the easiest way for me to get in and out of this lift or to access my upper floors? So, bathrooms and showers. Here's a couple tips as we look. Size is important in our bathrooms. Most of us have a 5-foot wide by 8-foot bathroom with a tub somewhere in there, right? How many of us have that? Not too many. How many of us have showers then in our bathrooms? Okay. As we look at the bathroom here, you're seeing a very free shower on the left, and we're seeing a shower chair here on the right. Some of the things we look at in the bathroom especially is how many transfers do we have to make? Transfers are when I get out of a chair and try to go anywhere else. So I may go to my tub, to my shower, I may go to my toilet, I may go back to my chair. All these transfers complicate and are a risk point because we have to move and try and maintain our independence. So a shower chair is designed to eliminate those transfers. With a barrier-free shower, I roll into the shower, I enjoy my shower. I come out, I roll over my toilet, I enjoy that, get done with my with my activities of living, and then I can go out and move to my mobility device. But the idea of eliminating or limiting transfers saves energy, it saves falls, it saves caregiver stress and wear and tear.
Back.
So planning ahead, yes?
Backs.
Backs, exactly, we've all had that. So as we look at the bathroom, we want to look at just a couple tips and points. Again, size of the user and size of the equipment is important. Typically, we're looking at moving from a standing and sitting environment where we just need a bar or a railing to hold on to a wheelchair environment. And we kind of want to look at that balance. Adjustable height, handheld showers are typically what we see, and they help us to work seated, work standing. You know, half of the world showers seated. Only in America do we think that showers are always standing. And I'm sure we've all done the dance with the shampoo in our hair, trying to rinse the water off and inside of a slippery surface, right? It's just, it's part of showering, but seated showers with handheld showers, much, much safer. In fact, they're even cleaner. So as we look at the size of the shower, we're typically looking at 3 feet by 5 feet, 4 feet by 4 feet, or 5 feet by 5 feet. The challenge is how much space do we have in that bathroom. So your typical showers, remove the tub and put in a barrier-free shower. And we've got some great room in the bathroom, but the design is important. So using the space well is the challenge. You'll notice how much bigger does the bathroom look when we remove the barriers. There's room, more floor space, there's more space for your feet and your legs, more for your chair, more for the rest of the family. You know, how many of us have a caregiver in the bathroom now? And that's just more room that we need. So this is a barrier-free shower on the left, and then there is a countertop on the right that's a roll-under countertop with a narrow sink so that our knees can get under that. As we talk through bathrooms, there are tons of pictures, tons of options. We have quite a few here today at our booth. So I would encourage you as well to come down to our showroom where you can see all this firsthand. But we will be here to answer questions and kind of talk through your unique home needs. Anybody have any questions as I wrap up today? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking. I've already had 2 questions and I meant to cover that. Toilets are something that my 8-year-old says, Dad, everybody uses them, so why can't we just talk about them? So I laugh with her a bit. But bidets are important because they do allow us to maintain our independence and our hygiene around that area. Okay? A lot of times the challenge of standing and sitting and transferring takes away our independence around the toilet. A bidet can be attached as a seat to the toilet, or it can be a standalone appliance or plumbing. But typically we see a bidet added to the top of your existing toilet. It can have hot or cold water. It can have easy-to-use controls either with your foot or your hands. And it allows you to maintain that independence and that hygiene. It's, I joke, but David Dibble was here last year. He's a veteran that has ALS, and we put a bidet in for him. And he said, the sensation, I'll just explain it. He said, the sensation is just like biting into the peppermint patty. Exhilarating. Well, typically you do need to install an electrical outlet and a water supply connection into that bidet. So typically at least a plumber, an electrician, or a contractor can do that for you. There are some inexpensive options, and then they do get typically they're in the $400 to $500 up to $1,000 cost for the bidets. Well, thank you guys for your attention today, and we'll look forward to your questions as we see you throughout the day.
Thank you very much.